Hello, and welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast with me, Lindsay White. I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs be great leaders, build high-performing teams, and create inspiring workplace cultures through innovative talent programs and practices. Because when people feel like they belong at work, they deliver their very best and businesses thrive. The Female Founder Friday podcast is all about connecting with the most incredible female entrepreneurs to talk about their journey to creating their own business, the mistakes they've made along the way, and how they view their own leadership. And I'm challenging all of my guests this season to take my leadership style quiz. And during each episode, we'll be digging into their leadership style and how it impacts the way they lead in their life and their business. And if you're interested in learning more about your leadership style and want some of my top tips to help you lead more effectively, you can take the quiz right now. Just check out the show notes or head over to highvoltageleadership.ca and click on the button at the top of the page that says Take the Quiz. Then you can share your results, connect with my guests, and join the conversation on Instagram by following me at High Volt Leadership. This week's episode of the podcast features a really interesting lady. Her name is 𝐒𝐤𝐲 McLean, and she is a Canadian entrepreneur who is absolutely building a hospitality empire with her company, Basecamp Resorts. Now, 𝐒𝐤𝐲 currently has 10 really beautiful modern boutique hotels in her portfolio, and they are here in my backyard in Alberta, but also in beautiful British Columbia. She opened her first hotel at 33 years old in Canmore, Alberta, which is about an hour from where I live. And since then, she has grown Basecamp Resorts into Western Canada's fastest growing hospitality brand, with plans to open even more resort locations over the next few years. She is a mover and a shaker, and you're going to love listening to our conversation today. Hey, welcome. I have got 𝐒𝐤𝐲 McLean here with me this morning. She's on the move, this girl. I'm really excited to have her as a guest on the show today. Thank you, 𝐒𝐤𝐲, for spending some time.
For having me.
Yeah, no, happy to have you because I think you've got a pretty cool story, and actually, I'm excited to learn more personally. So I'd love you to tell us about your road to becoming a female founder.
Yeah, you bet. Gosh, it is a long story, but I won't bore you with the, nitty gritty details. Essentially, I wanted to be in real estate. I always knew that. I don't know why. I did an MBA in real estate development, worked for a few developers, none of which worked out for a variety of reasons. And while I was working in, the corporate real estate world, I bought a condo. And it was in Canmore, and I was in Calgary, which is an hour apart.
Yeah.
So it was a commute, but it wasn't the end of the world. And sometimes I'd stay in Calgary, and I started putting that condo on Airbnb. It had a very unique zoning that allowed for either primary residence or Airbnb. And I knew nothing about Airbnb other than how to go book a place to stay in it. But I threw it on there and made up some rates that seemed, fine for the moment. And it crushed it. It was so busy. It was booked all the time that I started purposely staying at my boyfriend's or my friend's or the camping trailer or whatever, just to have this thing make some extra money. So then I'm still working at these various jobs, and I asked my mom for a loan for 150 grand, which was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I was paying her 5% interest because I was convinced that this Airbnb model was genius. And I bought another condo in Canmore. And this was the very last of the condos here that were still cheap from the 2008-09 recession that hit this sector really hard in Canmore.
Right.
And it was a smoking deal because those condos that were 160 grand are now 900 grand.
Yeah.
So it's such a crazy place. But anyway, I have these two condos. I'm with my now husband, then boyfriend, Tim. And I get fired from my job. And I'm like, oh my God, we've got these condos, a house in Calgary, mortgages up the yin yang. Tim's a carpenter. I'm making no money. This is the complete catastrophe. And I was pretty devastated. And I said, you know what? Screw going to work for someone. I am going to build a hotel. I've got these two condos that have, reduced this to practice. It works. It makes sense. I had a basic understanding of what people were looking for in this market.
Yeah.
And a basic understanding of real estate development and a basic understanding of financing and structure and equity and debt and all that. And I said, let's just do it. Tim, you're going to build it. And Tim's like, oh, okay, sure. Whatever you say, girlfriend. And so we park our camping trailer on this building site where we used all the money we had to put a deposit down, which was $50,000. Again, like so much money. And to close that land, we needed 800 grand. So that's when I started my pursuit as an equity raiser, ran around and raised equity. And to this day, that's my primary job, is just
Wow.
raising investor money for doing all these projects. So long story short, I built the first hotel and then the next and next. And now we have 18 hotels either operating, under construction, or under development.
Holy shit, Sky. That's
Bit of
unreal.
I mean, there's obviously like trying to tell, this whole story in like 25 seconds or less is always really hard,
Yeah.
but that's the gist of it.
Okay. So that is super cool. I love that. And uh talk about bootstrapping. I mean, that really is amazing. And what a wonderful gift the universe gave you in getting
Right?
fired. That's to me, you look at that and you think, "Oh, the universe knew." And it just gave you the boot in the ass you needed to move in that right direction.
Totally. And I am like forever grateful for that decision. In the moment, I'll not lie, like it was terrible. It was so embarrassing. I literally got
Yeah.
walked out of this large developer home builder in Calgary with a box with my stuff in it by the, head of HR. It was mortifying. It was like
Yeah.
the one of the lowest moments of my life. But to your point, it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh,
Other than obviously my kids and all that kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
stuff, corporate, like
And
best
get
thing that ever
married
happened to me
and
from a career perspective.
yeah, totally. Yes. I mean, let's not undersell some of the important personal moments in our lives.
Yeah.
But I think, some of the stuff that happens to us professionally is profound too. Right? I talk a lot with my female founder clients that I coach about work and life blend. And the truth is, as female entrepreneurs, it really is about how we weave our work and our life together. And yes, the important moments in our business play a big role, just like the important moments being a mom and getting married and all of these other things. So I love that. But I love that what you've done is built something incredible. And for anyone that is listening, because we have people that listen from around the world, if you are not familiar with Canmore, Alberta, it is absolutely one of the most beautiful places on the planet. It is nestled in the Rocky Mountains here in Western Canada. It's an hour to the west of Calgary, which has our lovely international airports, easy to get to. Come visit us. And it is the gateway to the Rocky Mountains here in Western Canada. And Banff National Park, that many people are familiar with, is not that far away. And it really is a beautiful, magical, natural place, and a place that so many people want to visit and live. So I'm not surprised to hear that this is just ballooning for you, Sky, because it's such a beautiful place to be.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, I just love that. So tell us about these 18 under development or already built hotel spaces that you have. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so we do, in the hotel world, we do two things. We either, like my story earlier, buy land, build from the ground up,
Yeah,
stack townhomes that are a hotel, which is known as, Basecamp Resorts, Basecamp Suites,
yeah,
or we acquire an existing hotel motel that we see an opportunity to renovate and rebrand under the parent company Basecamp.
yeah.
So we have Northwinds by Basecamp, an upcoming Mountain House Hotel and Nordic Spa by Basecamp,
Wow.
Lamp House on Main Street, Canmore by Basecamp. And I feel complete with the different brands and names and
Yeah,
offerings that we have. Like, I don't want this to get, overwhelming and confusing.
yeah,
And so now, in other communities, we're able to, do Basecamp Suites, Basecamp Resorts. And if an opportunity presents itself for one of our other brands that we've established here in Canmore, we'll just,
yeah.
reuse those brands as we see fit.
I love it.
So right now, like I said, we have 10 operating hotels and
Yeah,
um, that we've built and or renovated. We have one glamping property, which is Sundance by Basecamp in Kananaskis.
love it.
We might, look to expand in that space. That sort of was an interesting opportunity that I just, I love
Yeah,
being outside, so I totally fell in love with it. It's amazing. It's like the most special place ever. Um, And then we have downtown Revelstoke, which is under
Ooh,
construction, which is
yes.
Basecamp Suites, Mountain House by Basecamp, which is under construction, and then upcoming hotels in Canmore, Fernie, Golden, and Revelstoke. So that's how the 18, comes to be, with only obviously the 10 operating right now.
Right. But I love that. And I mean, it sounds to me, again, like you are in some of the most incredible places in the world. And if you didn't catch all the names of those locations, you should stop and play that again. Revelstoke, Fernie, Kimberley, Canmore, Kananaskis Country, some of the most incredible places. I love to talk about our backyard, Sky, because we live in a pretty cool place. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Oh, absolutely. And, I was driving a friend yesterday from Revelstoke to Canmore. He had never been to Revelstoke before and had been to Canmore Banff, years and years ago. And it was so cool because, he's taking pictures and just, wow, this is so cool. Wow, this is so great. And not that I ever forget every day. It's like, wow, this is beautiful. But it's always just so cool to share that with someone else who hasn't had the experience for a while. So it is, to
Totally.
your point, the best place on earth.
It is. And what I really love as you're talking and telling us about your journey, your story, I mean, a lot of the big resort towns the world over are really, controlled and dominated by big global brands, right? The big hotel companies, the big resort companies. And what I love is that this is a female founded family business, essentially. I mean, it's, I'm sure it's grown beyond that, but that this is really about your love for this part of the world. Like you said, your love to be outside. I mean, Sky's calling in. She's in her car in Canmore talking to us today because she's on the move. And I love that. I really love that this is a woman-owned business making an impact in these really beautiful spaces, these lovely resort towns.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So next, Sky's taken my leadership style quiz because, of course, she leads a pretty dynamic organization. We're going to talk to her about what her style is. But if you want to know what your leadership style is, go to the link in the show notes or highvoltageleadership.ca. There's a button at the top of that first page that says take the quiz now. It'll only take you a couple minutes and you can find out what your leadership style is, compare with Sky's style. And I'm going to send you some of my top leadership tips so you can be a more effective leader today. So, Sky, we kind of talked about this before we hit the record button. What is your leadership style?
I am definitely a supporter,
Yeah.
based on the quiz and based on, that's how I feel internally rather than, I forget what the other ones were,
Yeah.
dictator or whatever they were. Um, yeah,
Director,
very much.
not
And
a dictator, but a director. But yes,
yeah,
yes.
I remember there was something, some D word in there.
Yeah,
And yeah.
I love it. What does that mean for you being a supportive leadership style? I mean, in your life and your business are all really blended together here. So what does that show up like for you?
I would call that the entrepreneurial way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's very much like, I've never been a boss before I was an entrepreneur.
Mm.
Well, I was for like 25 seconds, right? But like I didn't have years and years of experience managing people.
Mhm.
And I find that as an entrepreneur, you're kind of apply what you do to yourself to others, if that makes sense. So it's like, I don't know, figure it out. I'm here for you, but I can't help you. And I'm sure as shit not going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
So I hope that's an accurate description, because I feel like a lot of times, I hire people and I'm like, well, listen, you got to run this whole thing and just report back when there's like a really big problem. Otherwise, I'm going to assume everything's under control. But I'm always here to support you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so that's my style, because that's how I had to learn the business. I didn't have a boss or a role model. It's funny, I was asked yesterday, and I don't know who was asking me, who's your main role model? And I'd have a few. It's not
Yeah.
like nobody's been influential or anything, but along my career in real estate, like in my jobs, I had zero role models. I had role models
Mm.
outside of my jobs and at
Yeah.
school and stuff. But yeah, I never had anyone who was like, I'll take you under my wing and teach you the business. No. Like, so
Yeah.
that was a bit of a tangent, but
No.
essentially I feel like I really want people to grow as entrepreneurs within the organization and give them the
Ah.
space to do that, but still know that they're not like flying solo.
You know what? I think the way you articulated that is beautiful, right? I want you to feel ownership. I want you to feel like you have the ability to impact this thing, project, place, whatever, but that you're not on your own, right? And I think that's so important because when we are trying to create these beautiful businesses and we're kind of building the plane as we fly it in a lot of ways, we need people in our organizations that can come in, be experts at the things we're not, right? Like we're not good at everything. We just can't be. And I know that with some of the women I work with, that's maybe part of the problem is they can't stop touching all the pieces of their business and they kind of get in there and like muck it up a little bit sometimes. Can be a problem. So I
Oh,
like the
absolutely.
approach. Yeah. Yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Hire smart people that are good at what they do and let them go and do it. Because get out of their way, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so tell us, and I have a feeling there's probably a few examples here. Where have you made mistakes? Where have you screwed it up along the way? And really, what have you learned from that, Sky?
Oh gosh, there's like a laundry list.
Right?
Think of a good one. Um, there's a lot of like little mistakes I've made along the way, errors, but I'm trying to think of an impactful one would be actually if I were to continue on the topic we're on, which
Yeah.
is, leadership and allowing people to be entrepreneurial. I think I swayed too much in that direction. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, here's your department, go hire people, have a nice day, just run it. I don't have time to deal with it. I got to go do these deals and figure all this other stuff out. And I think I went too much in that direction in that people had no leadership. And so now
Ah,
I'm in the process of like finding the middle ground
yeah,
of, okay, people still need direction and leadership and understanding of where the company is going and what we're doing and all of that. So we're honing in on all of those, strategies and visions and all of that stuff. So the
yeah,
leaders, at the organization know what I'm thinking. And I sometimes
yes,
forget that people can't read my mind. Like, what? You didn't know we were doing this? Oh, right. I didn't tell you. So just figuring out how to communicate better
yeah,
to the team, namely the executive team, so that they can communicate to the team, below them and so on and so forth.
yeah.
And so that would be, I would say, my main failure. um yeah.
Okay, so first, let me say, I mean, I asked this question, and I always appreciate like you stepped into that really boldly and really owned that. In fact, as a leader, you didn't give enough leadership. But I think you said it earlier. Maybe like leadership is it's something we develop over a period of time, and if you didn't have great leaders or much leadership at all, how do you know, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. And I see that a lot, whether it's, women that leave the corporate world to start businesses and they've had terrible bosses, like really those hideously toxic people. And so either they're kind of doomed to repeat that bad behavior or they go the opposite. I don't want to be that. So I'll let people walk all over me, or I don't want to be that. So I'll let everybody do what they want, or I don't know where I step in or where I step out. How much is too much? I don't want to be a micromanager, but maybe I swing the pendulum a little the other way. Like I see that a lot in female founders. Is this some of the biggest struggles are just trying to figure out what's the authentic leadership for you, like what's meaningful and purposeful in your, like, for your own perspective, right? So I love that. I love you stepped into that.
Thank you. That's exactly it.
So okay, so I'm curious then, what was there a moment or was there something in particular that gave you the clues, the indication that, hey, wait a minute, I actually need to be a bit more present as a leader? Was there something in particular that spurred that?
Oh, totally. Yeah, mistakes started happening, people were overwhelmed.
Mm,
One of the executives had 20 million, not 20 million, but like a bajillion unread emails.
Oh,
People were missing things. And I was like, what the heck's going on here? And,
wow.
I've always told everyone, hire who you need. Let's figure it out. Let's make a budget. Da, 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 da. But I suddenly realized, well, I wasn't there, guiding that and leading that and having regular meetings with the executives. So even though I thought I had provided clear instruction, I clearly hadn't, or people were scared to or overwhelmed, or anyway,
Yeah.
it was just, yeah, things were starting to fall through the cracks,
Yeah.
essentially, is the answer to your question.
Yeah.
And I started noticing. And so we had to just kind of rein it in a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, again, I think it's just so important. It's our business and people are looking to us for the direction, for you talked about the vision. Like, you're right. They need
Mhm.
to know what is in our head. We have to tell them what we're trying to create and we have to get them to kind of connect to that. That's a part of it. That's a big part of being a CEO, is actually that visioning so that people can see how they play a role in that. They can get invested in it. So I love that you, again, that you just stepped really boldly into that and were like, yeah, that's work only I can do. Nobody else can provide that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what would you, I mean, looking back on that, what would you have done differently? What's the lesson learned for you?
I don't know if I would have done anything differently, to be honest. And I say that because we've grown really quickly. And I
Yeah.
think when a business grows as quickly as we have, amidst A, being a startup, B, holding on by a thread during COVID, and then C, trying to come
Yes.
out the other end growing, um, there's nothing we could have done or I could have done differently. Like, if I decided somehow internally that I didn't want to grow and didn't want to seize these opportunities that I saw during and after COVID, then I would have spent more time, molding the staff or leading the staff or growing the staff or whatever all the right words are to,
Yeah.
explain what
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
have probably done at the executive level. But I didn't know it. So I can't have done it differently because there was
Yeah.
no way I
Fair
ever would have known it.
enough.
So it's like until you fuck something up, you really don't know you've fucked it up. So I wouldn't have done anything differently.
I love it. You're right. I mean, it is absolutely true, especially as, man, the last couple of years have been a roller coaster, right? Like, you're just kind of trying to manage the moment through COVID more than anything, and just keep the business afloat. And especially, like you said, when you're in that high growth mode and then things are all over the map, it's a bit of a roller coaster. So you're right. You don't know what you don't know as a female founder sometimes. Um, and I think that it's important that when you do know better, like Maya Angelou says, when you know better, do better, right? Like, and that sounds like exactly what you've done is you figured out, you were observant enough to recognize when things were starting to go sideways and acted, quickly to fix that, to rally the troops and to actually, lead in that more supportive way, which I think is really important.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's very
Yeah.
important, and it's okay. And it's like I look back, and sometimes I'm all hard on myself, like oh
Yeah.
man, why was I just such an idiot? But then it's like, well, everybody learns different things different ways. So, anyways.
It it's such an experience. I know one of the things that I found that can be really impactful, and it's interesting because as business owners, we get into business plans and strategy, and we have a capital plan, we've got a marketing strategy, we've got all of this stuff. One of the things that often gets missed as we grow our business is the people strategy. Who do we need? When do we need them? What do we need them to come equipped with, like skills and experience? And then how do we find them and how do we get them working as efficiently, as effectively as possible? I find it so interesting. We plan for a lot of other things, but sometimes we don't plan, or it's difficult to plan for the people part. The people are the ones that do all the work, which is so ironic.
Yeah, no, it's very true. There's so many things you have to figure out, and so many strategies that something will always go by the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Well, Sky, this has been an incredible conversation, and I'm super grateful that you really stepped in and offered just some really personal but really important lessons and thoughts, and in particular, that as a leader, you've really learned how important it is to be more present in your business, because that leadership is so key. I think that's such a great takeaway from this conversation today.
Yeah, no, it's definitely very important. And when you're the the person doing the deals and working with the banks and doing this and doing that and talking to investors, you're rarely in the office. And so then
Yeah.
managing the people does go by the wayside naturally if you're not there. People have no idea what's going on. And so, as a matter of fact, to conclude that train of thought, I've recently hired a president of real estate who's going to be managing everybody on the development and construction side of the business, which is where we were lacking in leadership because we had already a president of operations who's been with us for a few years. And I was like, I need to, do what I did with operations, which is hire Dave, to real estate and construction, because I'm not around. I'm not going to be around. I'm all over the place, Revelstoke, here, there, and everywhere. I'm with the kids, all this other stuff. And I just did, and he actually just started yesterday. So hopefully this takes the edge off. We'll see, but I hope so.
It makes an enormous difference in an organization when you have the right people in the right places doing the right things. Our teams are the source of so much value in our organizations. And I love the point, like it enables you to be the strategic leader that you need to be, to set the vision, to get other people invested in that and moving everyone, all the horses pulling in the same direction, as they say, but also enabling you to do the things that you're really great at, right? The investment and the funding part of the business. Clearly, you're real passionate about that, Sky, and it sounds like you do a great job at it. Oh, and by the way, a wife, a mother, got kids to look at, right? Like want to have a life. Right. So I love that. I love that, you found the right person to be in that leadership role and free you up to do the things that you need to do to move your business and your personal life forward. Because that's really important.
Yeah, I know, it definitely is. So yeah, no, it's always a moving target, but it's been fun.
Yes, that much is for sure. It's always a moving target, isn't it? I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. Sky, thank you so much. This has just been a fabulous conversation this morning. I know, like I said at the beginning, you're in the car. I know you're headed to somewhere else today. So I really appreciate the time and being able to, have this connection with you, because this is just such a fantastic story.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have you on the show. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. I sure hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. And if you did enjoy today's episode, would you do me a favor? Would you give the episode a 5-star review and share it with all of your friends? I would really appreciate that. I've got a goal to impact 1,000 female founders, and with your help, we can really amplify this message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me and all of my guests on Instagram at High Volt Leadership. We'll see you next Friday.